Hello, denizens of the internet. I'm putting on my former network executive hat on for a green light or not episode of a show that has created, I think, the greatest disparity of YouTube and TikTok traffic versus the least viewership of said show. I think, well, that's a phenomenon in of itself. The show is, of course, Robyn Hood, a modest Canadian production on the global TV network up here, one of two private networks that make their money whoring simulcast American series. Getting back to Robyn Hood, I'm not reviewing the show or plan on slamming it. If I was the exec in charge of production, these are the questions I would have asked its creator, Director X. That's what he calls himself. It would have been my job to help the show become a success. This is going to be my approach here. Of course, Director X isn't around to respond, and I'm certain he'll disagree with much of what I have to say. But I say it in good faith. He has been responding on TikTok quite robustly to his detractors. It's this feedback loop that has caused more people to review it on YouTube while its ratings here in Canada plummet. So why am I doing this at all? Well, Canada was my hood when I was doing this exec in charge of production thing, and one of my subscribers paid me $5 super thanks dollars. I hope I give him his money's worth. Robyn Hood is a low-budget series on, as I said, Global TV, a regulated network that is forced against its will by the Canadian Radio and Television Commission to air Canadian productions. Usually, the attempts are masterfully, hilariously half-hearted. Now, Robyn Hood is definitely not half-hearted. They put a lot of work into it. And it was a surprise to see it on Global. And so far, the show is available only in Canada. But a lot of Americans, Brits, and Swedes seem to have wanted to get into the IMDb ratings action. I don't know why. The online description is,
Robyn Hood reimagines 1,000 years of legend for the age we live in. Robin and his merry men fought the despotic and unjust Prince John in the name of freedom and equality. Our Robin will fight the injustices of today while embracing the heroic, hopeful, playful elements of the world's most recognizable hero. Robyn Loxley, 24, is a young black woman whose masked band, The Hood, is known for their inventive videos and anti-authoritarian message. She lives in Sherwood Towers, a cluster of rental high-rises in a working-class corner of New Nottingham, Toronto, a nearby city where the cost of living has skyrocketed, leaving an ever-widening gap between the rich and everyone else. When Robyn finds herself fighting for her home and her family against the local property developer John Prince and the sheriff of Nottingham, Robyn and her band, The Hood, decide to take the law into their own hands, using their masked secret identities to steal from the 1% elite who now control their city and give back to their community. Robyn Loxley is not just another superhero with powers and abilities no one can hope to possess. She's a badass every woman who learns to fight for what's right, to lead, care for, and guide her followers. Robyn, like all Robyn Hood since the first ballad was written, holds those in power to account in the only way the wealthy understand, by robbing them blind.
That's a lot to unpack. Many reviewers have called it out for its cultural appropriation. As a network exec, I don't care. Please refer back to my Hoor comment earlier. My job is to help the producers craft something that sparks viewers' imagination and approval. That last thing is important, and I'll get back to that. Now, I don't know if Director X crafted this little speech or the network. It's kind of a silly, sellable idea until the Robyn and her band, the Hood, decide to take the law into their own hands using their masked secret identities to steal from the 1% elite and give back to their community. If the line were instead using their masked secret identities to actually get a decent job, I think it would have been more palatable. The fight for freedom and equality part, based on the pilot episode, the lead characters are selfish and not very likable, except for Alan, Much, and Jill. They seem to have the freedom to trespass on private property. Now, we've hit a generational and racial stumbling block already. If you haven't noticed yet, I'm an old white guy. For better or worse, Global is a commercial network and needs to sell ads on its shows. 70% of Canadians are some kind of white. 4.7% are black. The show will definitely skew young and will cross racial lines in that regard. When I was doing this shit, I wanted to root for the success of all my shows. The bad guy is a developer named John Prince. Get it? Prince John. He wants to turn the apartment block our heroes live in into expensive condos and kick its existing inhabitants out. He has a wastrel son who spends all his father's money on drugs and large-breasted women. Ironically, the only person with a clear life goal. The Sheriff of Nottingham is an evil ginger. The show premise is ostensibly Robyn and her hoods trying to prevent Prince from demolishing their homes, apartment blocks. From a viewer's perspective, at least in the pilot, while Prince John is drawn in a snidely whiplash mold, initially nothing he's doing is illegal, though he does try to pay off politicians. The gang, however, are expressly breaking the law, which causes the sheriff to go eye-rolling nuclear, ransacking apartments, getting booed by the oppressed apartment dwellers, having cabbage thrown at the police. Finally shoots Robyn's mother accidentally under a mural with a painting of a black man suspiciously recalling the searing image of George Floyd. I didn't get it. Black people good and oppressed rich white people and police bad. Now, this could be a generational thing, but I think that's just awful. I'm sure there will be young people of a similar political bent raising their fists during the Tostito commercial breaks. But I don't understand how this show got past any kind of scrutiny, network scrutiny. Let me segue quickly to the cast for a moment. They are all uniformly good. I just wish they had a better script to work with. So, Director X is sitting across from me as a network exec in charge of the feelings of all the white people in Canada. I'm going to tell him the developer versus the people premise is not sustainable as a generator of interesting stories. And the systemic anti-police thing, that's a no-go. Individual bad cops, sure. But if we're trying to mend bridges, what's in this pilot is not helpful. Besides, based on the pilot show, it wasn't at all believable. The only way to make the show work would be to have an internally generated conflict along the lines of The Wire. I wouldn't suggest that he turn Robyn Hood into The Wire, but stealing money from drug kingpins the community lives in fear of and giving to the poor would be a much more grounded premise and more dangerous. Within this framework, you could still have a developer wanting to tear down the towers and an overzealous sheriff. He might come back with not wanting to stereotype his community as drug dealers. I could imagine that exchange. Based on the pilot I saw, it's thin, it's cartoonish, and not enough of Global's audience will approve of this. The cast is great. It looks no worse than a CW show. I like a lot of the vernacular. Would I have greenlit this show based on the pilot episode alone? No. The one positive thing about it is that it will give experience, production experience, acting, directing experience to a whole bunch of people who have had little to not enough. If it fails, I'm hoping they can come back with a better effort. Till next time, denizens, be seeing you.